even think there was that many people into the Jabbers.
No, it's and I'll get into that in a minute, man. There's been, I mean, how I got into your guys' shit is, I mean, always kind of to geography. I'm in Chicago, and I'll get into that in a minute. But anyway, we're live. I'm very blessed today. I got on deck Steve S, who's got deep roots in punk, as you'll see in a minute. I came across his YouTube channel just kind of by accident when I was looking for GG Allin and the Jabbers content. Specifically, I was looking to see if the Jabbers had ever played Exit in Chicago, because I know GG did on his own with one of his like one-off bands in the 80s. But I came across Steve's content, and Steve knew the man himself very well, and he's got quite a story to tell. I'm gonna give it to you, Steve S. Like, tell us about yourself. Like, tell us your background, who you are, like what your background is in music, like all of that, man. Like whatever you're comfortable saying.
Well, I first started getting into punk rock probably when I was in high school, senior in high school, and GG came out with that album in 1980. That's when I graduated.
Oh well, out in New Hampshire, right? Yeah. I mean, I know where you're from, but for the people that, yeah.
So basically, from a friend of a friend, we borrowed that album and we listened to it. It was like the only punk stuff in Manchester, you know. He was
right.
Like the only thing there. So we started going to see some shows, and I was a fan, and I mean that's how it all started, as far as me getting into punk rock.
What's really interesting to me too, like I see, like there was a big punk scene in Chicago, particularly like late 80s, very early 90s. And GG Allin was kind of this like mythical figure, because I'd read about him in Maximum Rock and Roll. Because even though that was a New York City publication, there was this newsstand that like had every kind of magazine and like paper you can imagine, and like zine. So I'd flip through Maximum Rock and Roll, and they'd cover GG. I think even when he was locked up in Michigan, they even like did an interview with him and like transcribed it. But all we really knew, I mean, this was freaking pre-internet, obviously. This was like 1992. Like, all we really knew with GG was he was like this wild man, like crazy, like bald guy who, you know, was doing all this like really lit, crazy stuff. It wasn't really until he died that the Jabber stuff got wide exposure, at least here. Like, somebody dropped this CD called Dirty Love Songs, and it was really slickly produced. And it started with a bunch of tracks from Always Was, Is, and Always Shall Be. And it went right up to about 89, I think, when he was with the Holy Men or something. But so in the jewel case, there's like this booklet, you know, and you see GG, he's like a good looking dude, and he's like fronting a real band, you know, like it looks like a totally different guy. And like, at least to me, I'm like, that's fucking crazy. So like this dude I knew who worked at one of the record shops here called Hip Cat Records, he's like, oh yeah, he's like, you want to hear some Jabber stuff? And I'm like, yeah, definitely. So he dropped Always Was, Is, and Always Shall Be on me, and I'm like, this is like the Trash Man meets the Ramones, man. I'm like, this is fucking dope. So I started like proselytizing it to people, and like they didn't even know, they had no idea that there was that like back catalog for GG. Like, what do you think? And again, whatever you're comfortable talking about, if there's something you don't want to answer, that's fine. But like, what exactly happened, man? Like, what do you think his problem was? Was it just mental illness? Was it alcoholism? Was it, did prison kind of demolish him? Because he was a real front man.
I think, like I said, in some of my videos I put on YouTube, my thing was with him. He told us when I was in the Jabbers, he told us, he goes, I'm going to make you guys famous someday. So he wanted to be famous in the worst way. And I think after he got divorced from his wife, or separated from his wife, because he was married, right? Basically, that's when he started going down, transforming himself into the guy you knew at the end. But when I knew him, he had no tattoos. I mean, he was a normal type guy, except for when he was on stage.
No, he was objectively like a good-looking dude. He looked like a front man for like a punk band. Like he didn't look like some crazy man or something. Like it.
No, he wasn't really, at all.
Yeah, and what was really. No, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, he was like I said, he was a good-looking guy. I mean, his wife was nice. I mean, he was a normal guy. He really was.
What was strange too, like, right, I don't know who was behind this, if it was like spontaneous or if it was Merle kind of plugging the Murder Junkies far and wide, but right before he died, he popped up on the talk, like Gigi popped up on the talk show circuit with like Dino Sex, Merle, whoever, Chicken John was gone by then, but whoever was like had taken his place. He did like Geraldo, like Jane Whitney, like Jerry Springer. Yeah, and he was really popping for a minute. And I mean, it was weird how he died, man, like just abruptly. Because I mean, as I understand it, he was, you know, he didn't really fuck with heroin. He was like an alcoholic, and it was like a one-off thing. And it but I think I gleaned, man, like it seemed like the end was kind of near at that point. I don't know, but I don't think. But I will say this, man, like however I feel about that, like later catalog stuff. I remember when like the Murder Junkies era and like the crazy shit. Like I remember when like Jackass and like CKY and all that bullshit kind of popped. I realized like a lot of that kind of transgressive like stunt shit and like DIY like stunt shit like owed a lot to Gigi Allen. And one of them guys, like he was actually wearing like a Hated in the Nation shirt, like during one of the fucking Jackass episodes. And I'm like, you know, that the dude had like a deeper impact than people think, man. Not just as, I mean, for better or worse. I mean, I think, but how did and do people view him like back on the East Coast and in New Hampshire, man? Like, is he basically looked at as like this kind of legendary punk, or is he just viewed as like a fucking psycho?
No, I think even in New Hampshire today, very few people know who he is in New Hampshire. I mean, he's more popular now, but you know, in New Hampshire, we weren't well known at all. We were just known in those punk circles. You know,
where did you guys play mostly? Like Boston?
We only played, the farthest we played for when I was in the band for 2 years was New York City.
Right.
And when I was in the band for nearly 2 years, and I figured it out. I played 8 live shows in 2 years. That's it. We played it once every 3 months, pretty much.
Yeah, so it's not like you guys were like on. Yeah, it's not like you guys were like on the road for months on end or something. Yeah, no, I understand.
We couldn't play. Plus, we didn't have any money. I mean, Gigi didn't have any money. We couldn't like go on a tour or anything.
Right. It's not gonna happen. And it's not like anyone was staking you and like advancing you money and stuff. But what was, I mean, what take me back to like when you guys you graduated high school in the 80s. Like you guys were probably like with the Ramones basically like your top influence if you could stack it up that way.
Oh, for me it was Johnny Ramone. Yeah. I saw the Ramones in 1979, one of the first like punk shows I saw, and that was it. I picked up a guitar.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah. No, like I said, the early Jabbers stuff, it reminds me of the Trashmen, like meets the Ramones, man. Like it's objectively dope. And I mean, it's like that too. I try and emphasize the people too, because I mean, I'm a little younger than you, but you know, when I was like a kid and like a teenager, man, like there was no like internet, so it's like really the only way you were hearing like fresh stuff, like punk shit, was on like bootleg tapes or like what you'd hear like by word of mouth or like random bands who'd be like opening for some other band you knew about at like some dive. And the fact that like when I hear bands like the Jabbers, like you guys were up on some pretty cutting edge shit, man, like in terms of like what was popping then. And like that's interesting to me, man. Like it's so you had to actually be like dedicated to freaking like be like a punk fan in those days, man. Like like what was the scene like, man? Like that was pretty heavy metal and like even pre like a hardcore. Like was it was it just kind of like developing like as it went, or like what was it like at a Ramon show in like 79, 80?
Well, there was no scene pretty much in New Hampshire, a punk scene. I mean, there's a few bands, but all the punk scene was down in Boston.
And Boston's interesting. Go ahead.
We saw the Ramones. The Ramones were, I mean, they were very influential on all of us in the Jabbers. And we saw them. You know, we saw them at the.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, we all went to see him down at I have a video of that. We went to see him down at the Club Casino in Hampton Beach. And Gigi didn't last. I think he lasted like a half hour because it was a seated show. Basically, he wouldn't sit down, and they just three guys got on him and tossed him out, threw him down the stairs. But he was a
and that
huge
name,
Ramones
or like,
fan.
yeah, like or like, yeah, when did excuse me, I'm sorry. Yeah, I know you said you only played about 8 shows total, but when, well, like in the Jabbers era, like when, what were kind of the first indications that GG was really kind of going off the rails, or like that potential was there? Like, I know in those days his antics weren't as extreme as later on, but when did he when did it start basically, man? Like, was it
It
towards
started. It
the end?
started. No, it started probably after the Jabbers. When we went on stage, he'd mostly every show. Maybe he'd moon the audience. He'd pull his pants down and show his ass.
But that was it.
And then sometimes he'd like unzip his pants, but he wouldn't show anything, like a Jim Morrison thing that he did in Florida. I think. Remember, he got arrested, Jim Morrison, for indecent
Yeah,
exposure.
for like
Well,
indecent or whatever.
he
Yeah.
would do that, but he would never pull it out. But
Right,
that's
it's not
it.
like he was like attacking the audience or something, or
No, and then all he was all taught. He'd talk a bunch of shit and he'd roll around, he'd jump around. He's like Iggy Pop back then, pretty much.
no, yeah. It's interesting too. Yeah, Gigi could channel a lot of them guys effectively. Like, there's this one really weird clip, and it's like he looks like kind of like the sleazed out version of Johnny Thunders or something. And it's like a good like imitation, man. Like, it's obvious that's what he's going for, but it's like actually it's pretty good. And then there's this weird ass video on YouTube. It's some one-off band that I guess he just got together for this video shoot. It's he's playing like what sounds like a fucking like, it sounds like it's like Motley Crue influenced like fucking hair metal type shit.
Well,
From, I think, like,
that's the probably the Live Fast Die Fast.
thank you. Yeah. And it's really, really weird, but you can tell that no, to your point, it's weird because, like, on the one hand, there's something intrinsically punk about everything he does, because it's like this kind of like decayed like weirdness to it, but you can tell he's channeling like what's popping at the time, and like,
Well, he was getting into Motley Crue. I mean, that's when
There's,
that Live Fast Die Fast came out, and it's like, if you ever watch that video on YouTube, it's hilarious. I mean, it's the
no,
funniest
it
thing
is,
I've ever
man. No, and and he's doing yeah, man, he's like he's got like big hair and shit, and like his drummer like looks like freaking he looks
Motley
like
Crue guy.
yeah, it's freaking,
But
it's really,
if you check that video out, he doesn't even have any tattoos. Then that's after the Jabbers, pretty much right after the Jabbers, he came out with that.
no, it's fascinating, man. And then, yeah, and it well, that's the thing too. It's like I had this old VHS tape that I scored at Hip Cat Records. And like, anyone who's from Chicago, was about my age, will remember Hip Cat. And I think it was Gigi Allen Live and Pissed. That's just what it was called. And it was from like
Yeah, I've heard of that.
87. And that's when he seemed like he was at his kind of like grimiest. Like, I guess he was like sleeping rough. He had this like long scraggly hair. He was like really skinny. And
Yes.
it's a pretty raunchy tape, man. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I found it was kind of like a rough viewing experience. But he looks totally different than he did before and after. And then when he got out of prison, I guess in Michigan, I guess he like broke parole to go on like the Murder Junkies tour in 92 or
Yeah,
93. And it's like, yeah, I mean,
92.
prison doesn't do anybody any good, but it seems like there was an even more, there was some kind of like inner darkness there or whatever. Like, did he, like, how did something like people always ask, because I mean, people always ask this about like rock and rollers, because I mean, everybody who's got any kind of following like attracts girls, but I mean, it seems like even in the days when he got really depraved, it seemed like girls liked the dude, man. Like, his last girlfriend was that young chick who'd been on Springer with him. Like, I mean, did
Yeah,
he always
yeah.
have like broads around him? They were into that shit.
No, not the Jabbers. We didn't have any groupies. It was all guys that came to our shows, pretty much. And
Interesting,
then
yeah.
they'd bring their girlfriends there, and of course, when Gigi, we played "Give Me Some Head," he'd be like, "Hey, any girls out there that suck cock?" That was his line. Every show he'd say that. Raise your hands. Let's these guys know who to take home tonight. He'd say that every show. But
Yeah.
basically,
No, go ahead.
there was no really groupies around. Not really.
Yeah, no, I understand. And I wanted to I know people got mixed like opinions of him. Like I don't know the guy. I kind of know Nico Clow, who doesn't know him. Nico's a big guy in like the murderabilia scene. But what's your impression of Merle, man? Like I did he seems I know a lot of people feel like he's kind of exploiting the back catalog and kind of the image of his brother to the questionable degrees. Like, did you have any contact with him, or like was he around when you guys? Not
When I
really.
first met, when I first joined the band, Gigi and Al, who was the bass player, and I think Al actually they went to the same high school, and I think Al and Merle were in the same grade. And
Okay.
those guys did nothing but talk shit about Merle constantly. I didn't even meet him. I said it's Gigi's older brother, but I mean that's all I knew. And I only met him, I think, one time, or the first time I met him, he was living down in Alston with his wife. I think he was married at the time. And Gigi went to see him for some reason. That's when I first met him. But I barely know Merle. The only
Yeah,
thing I can the only thing I can say about Merle, I'll have to give him credit because Gigi, I'm telling you, he always wanted to be famous, and without Merle pushing all that stuff, I mean, we probably wouldn't even be sitting here talking right now, honestly.
that's the impression I got. And like yeah, with the just like I mean pre-internet, like a lot of the like young peoples don't. I mean, they don't like remember this directly, obviously, but it's like Gigi managed to go viral, as it were, like as much as you could when like cable TV was all there was. And I speculate that was all Merle. It was like getting him on shit like Sally Jesse Raphael and freaking Springer and like yeah, Merle. That the dude's got hustle, man, and like I said, I don't know the guy, but just like everybody I've talked to in his orbit, like on the kind of like crime artifact and like murderabilia side of shit, because that was like his whole jive too. Like I guess like I mean the fact that the dude like pre-internet was like finding ways to, like make money out of this shit, and to your point, get like the kind of exposure for like what amounted to like a crazy fucking like local punk band. Like that's pretty freaking impressive. Like what dude how much to bring it back, um how much contact did you have with Gigi after the Jabbers days? I mean, did you still go to his shows and shit? Did you cross paths with him, or were you just kind of like fuck it, I'm done with it?
No, we were good friends, but when you mentioned Chicago, the last time I saw him alive, he was at a phone booth. I pulled over and started talking to him. We talked for 15, 20 minutes, and he was moving to Chicago. And he moved in this girl named Liz. I don't know if it's the same Liz that was on
Yeah,
those
she was. I
shows.
think so, man, because she was from Milwaukee originally. Then she ended up here, like I'm in Chicago now.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, Gigi ended up moving in with her in Chicago. That's why Gigi has a following, I think, in that area because he moved there. And
yeah,
I didn't see him. I didn't see him after that. You know,
right, right.
this is like pre-internet. You know, you don't. You know, you can't look up somebody, and I mean, way before that time. So
No, 100%.
basically, I lost contact with him. I see blurbs and fanzines or stuff about him, but basically after I think that was probably maybe 86 that he moved to
Huh.
Chicago, 85, maybe 85 even.
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah, and I know for a minute he was like homeless here, and that I mean that's Chicago's not an easy place to be homeless, man. But it makes there's a lot of I've been to the East Coast. I've been to New Hampshire, man. It's a fascinating place, and I like the East Coast reminds me of Chicago in a way that the West Coast and the South doesn't. It kind of tracks that a guy like him would lay down roots here at least for a time. But the no, there's always yeah, there's always been a very like active kind of like music scene here, and I mean everything's like different now, but like it like punk there was like a very active fucking scene until like the early '90s, and like it Boston was kind of the same way, like from what I saw when I was there. But yeah, no, that's what like what did you when did you first pick up pick up a guitar, man? Like, was it with the Jabbers, or were you like always like kind of fucking with music your whole life before that, or like how did that go down?
No, I was always into music when I was a kid, and then I took some guitar lessons probably for a month when I was maybe 10 years old. And of course, when you're that age, you just stop. You know, oh, I'm not interested anymore. And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
when I started hearing the punk rock, it's like picked up and bought a guitar, and that's what I wanted to do. But it was all because of punk rock that I picked up the
Yeah.
guitar again.
No,
And
that's
I
what's
always wanted to play. I always wanted to play in a band since I was a little kid. You know, and I got my dream came true with Gigi.
no, that's yeah, man, that's cool as fuck. What after you guys parted ways,
When I
man.
was in
No,
the
go ahead.
Jab, I mean, when I started playing in the Jabbers, I probably was only playing for like a year. That's it.
Yeah, it's no, you guys it's you guys are tight, man, especially considering, man, like there was no fucking Pro Tools or something. It's not like you could like clean stuff up post production and like hide, you know, like the rough spots in the masters or something. Like it like I'm not just being polite. Like there's pretty much every like punk playlist I put together, man. I Dead or Alive, One Man Army, and at least like one or two other fucking Jabbers tracks is on there. And like every time like I fucking drop it on somebody, like, yeah, what is that? I'm like, that's GG on the Jabbers. They're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, man. It's like all they heard is like the fucking I want
Well,
to piss on you,
they
or, like,
never, well, they never heard him. They never heard him sing like he did when he started out. You know, like those
no,
early.
and
You know,
he had good frontman chops, not just because he, like we talked about, he was like a good looking dude and he had like high energy and stuff, but his voice, he's got a really good voice, man. I mean, I guess like probably like alcohol and smoking kind of like cashed it out, but no, he
oh, plus he started losing his teeth too. If you notice on that album, that Brutality and Bloodshed album, you can hear him like lisping on some of those songs because he has
yeah.
no teeth. He has no
No,
teeth.
and he just looks really, yeah, it is, yeah, no, he's like figuratively and literally like falling apart. Like that whole record, like I said, man, like the whole I got mixed feelings about that record because the one like Brutality and Bloodshed, like on the one hand, like the production value is like better than
Right,
most like
right.
GG stuff, but it's
But
like it's
there's some good songs on there though. I have
yeah,
to
no,
admit.
it slaps, I like it, but it you can tell. I mean, again, like I said, I don't think heroin was Gigi's usual thing, and I think it was kind of like a stupid one-off thing that he fucked with it and died. But I think you could tell he was like kind of reaching the end. I think, man, like it, just like in all kinds of ways, and he, yeah, I think like to your point, man, like you can kind of tell, and yeah, and his voice, man, and but it's an interesting record, man, and I think William Weber, that's the guy I was trying to think of,
Yeah,
who
yeah.
he's an interesting guy. Like I never met the dude, but he like years he was on the internet early in like '95, and like he did some really interesting stuff. Like he wasn't your typical just like kind of like punk guy or something. Like he yeah, you probably know all about him, but and he's on
Well, I
that
don't, but
record.
I saw I saw a little interview with him, and he basically Merle or Gigi put an ad in one of those one of these magazines down there, Village Voice. And that's how he got in the Jabbers. I mean, not the Jabbers, but
Interesting.
that's how he
Yeah,
got with Gigi Allen. But
yeah.
he was like a real guitar player compared to, like I said, I was just a hacker really. I was only playing for
Right.
a couple of years.
Well,
He
I
could
mean, it's
actually
those guys.
play.
Yeah, well, that's the interesting thing about Gigi too. Like like in the Hated documentary, you know, Dee Dee Ramone's in it because I guess Dee Dee he was at least like jamming with the Junkies for a minute, and
Yep,
he
yep.
briefly like yeah. So I mean, and it's like he could have, you know, I mean, Gigi had something even when his life kind of was going into a dark place. I mean, because all these peoples, man, like gravitated to him. Who, I mean, these guys weren't like thirsty for fame. They already had that, you know. Like he's a fascinating guy, man. Like that's one of the reasons I was stoked that you were willing to talk to us, man. Do you keep up with any of the other fellas you were in the Jabbers with, man, or have you all kind of been scattered to the four winds?
Yeah, I used to be very good friends with Al for years, decades, and we
Uh,
had a falling out, but he was the only one I really kept in contact with. And then Michael O'Donnell, he was the last drummer. He passed away maybe 4 years ago.
yeah,
I'd
I
see him
heard
once in
that.
a while.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
those are the only two guys that I really kept in contact with.
Right, right.
But they got
Where'd you
back,
go?
they got back together what in 2005, and they came out with that American Standard. I wasn't even living here at the time, but that wasn't a
Yeah.
bad. There was some good stuff on that.
No, it seemed pretty, yeah, it seemed pretty squared away, man, from what I heard. You know, not obviously not the same as the old shit, but it was, I mean, frankly, it was like better than I thought it would be. Um, I even like some of the stuff, the Junkies dropped a record, I think with Mike Denied right after Gigi died. They're not right after, it was like 95, called Feed My Sleaze. That record fucking slaps, and like that's one of
Really?
the best like underground rock albums of the 90s. I guess like Mike Denied is dead too, and I guess he and Merle ended up like hating each other, but he was a good front man, and I like that album, man. It's an interesting record. What what are
But
you
that
up on?
stuff after Bloodshed, I never really listened to any Murder Junkie stuff after that. You
I
know?
kind of came across it by accident, man. I think it was in the early like the early ass days of like Amazon in like 98 or 99. I think I ordered I ordered that compilation I told you about Dirty Love Songs, and like I got it
Yeah.
with Feed My Sleeves, like it's like 2 for 1 or something, and I'm like, oh wow, this fucking slaps. But what where'd music take you after the Jabbers, man? Like did you keep up playing, or did you just say like I'm fucking done with it, then kind of like move on to other stuff in life?
Yeah, basically after the Jabbers broke up in '84, it's like I had no interest. I no interest in playing another band. I said I'll never find anything better than this. I mean, it was the happiest couple of years of my life playing in that band. It was so much fun. It's like I'll never find camaraderie like this again. You know, it's like
When
we
it's
got
also, I
along
mean, it was
great.
just, yeah, it was a unique thing too, man. Like it'd be hard to.
I
I
could
mean, I think
never
that's the
top
thing about
that.
what's that?
I can probably never top that being in that band because it was so much fun and Gigi was so much fun. I mean, the
Well, it's
food was
also
great.
too. Yeah, I mean, I believe at least there, especially with punk, man. There's like a weird chemistry in individual bands. Like it's not like playing metal or something where like it's like its own thing, man. Like I don't know, and it's like I've talked to many guys, um, in different bands, like some of which like really pop, some of which like were only kind of ever like local in their reach, and they were like, yeah, like when it was done, they're like, I didn't, I wanted to play with that band, or like the only reason I started like going on the road is because like what that was them guys. It's not like I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna be a musician, and that's
Right, right.
it's interesting, man. That's real DIY shit though. It's more than just like a fucking cliche or something. It's like a real thing, man. But what did
But the thing too with the thing with the Jabbers too is Al Chappell, the bass player. I mean, he pretty much he's the Jabbers. His bass playing on those songs, those make the songs when you
Oh yeah,
listen to them. You know?
your guy's drummer was tight too, man. Like the rhythm section fucking holds
Well,
it down.
the drummer was G.G. Allen most of the time on all those recordings. He played all the drums pretty
Oh
much.
wow, no shit. Yeah, no, I know he started out as a drummer, but that's freaking crazy. And yeah,
Well,
he
I was on that No Rules EP, or
uh-huh.
No Rules, and he played the drums on those tracks. First time I ever seen him play drums live, it was unbelievable watching him play drums. I mean, the guy was a great drummer, great drummer.
Yeah, everybody, even people who didn't particularly like him, has stipulated that. So like, yeah, if you heard him play drums, like he had some real fucking like rhythm section chops, man. That's fascinating. Did
Well,
you
he could
ever
have played. He could have played like professionally, like in a metal band or any type of band. But
right?
he wanted to be up. He wanted to be up front. He wanted to be
Yeah,
the showman.
be a
But
rock
believe
star.
me,
Yeah, yeah.
he was good enough to play like a Motley Crue type band. No doubt about it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I don't doubt it, man. It yeah, no, that's freaking crazy. Did you know Gigi's folks? I know his dad was out of the picture early on, but did you know his mom or not really?
No, the first time and the only time I met his mom was at the wake when I went to the
Oh
wake.
wow, yeah, I was gonna I didn't because you I didn't want to bring up a painful memory because you raised it. That I've seen the video from that and it seems like fucking crazy, man. I mean, even and like what was your like what was that like, man? Like were you like what the fuck is this? Like with all that crazy
Well, it
stuff
was
going on at the wake?
well. The most shocking thing was, I remember, I saw Gigi the last time probably in '85, late '85. Then he moved to
Uh-huh.
Chicago, and I'd see pictures of him in magazines once in a while or whatever. But when I went to that wake, I never, because those talk shows, I never saw him when they were live. The only
Right.
one I was going to see, he was supposed to be on Morton Downey Jr., and that was a nighttime talk show. I
Yeah,
remember.
I
I
remember
was
it.
ready to watch it, but it got canceled because he trashed a hotel room or something. He never went on Morton Downey Jr. Oh, I never saw Gigi with the bald head and all that shit until I saw him in the casket. I was like, it was just unbelievable. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. Couldn't believe it because I never saw him. I never saw him like that before.
Right, right.
This
It's
is pre-internet, so it's not like you can look up stuff. It's like
no, he looked
I
like a
never
totally
saw.
different guy. I mean, yeah, yeah.
Oh, he
It
looked
was
like
like,
it looked like a monster laying in that casket. I mean, it was
yeah.
unbelievable. Because Merle
No,
told the
that's
guy not. Merle told the mortician, don't wash the body. I'm sure he was. I'm sure he was like embalmed because he died in New York. And the wake was probably at least a week later.
yeah.
The body wasn't washed. I mean, he looked like a monster. Something like purple and green. He put his head through a. I heard he put his head through a glass window, a glass door at the gas station. His last show.
Yeah,
And
I've
I swear
seen
to
that.
God, you could still see like pieces of glass in his forehead. Swear to
There's
God.
something surreal. I don't know the geography of New York City that well, but I know it kind of. I think there's this video of that last show, and it's fucking surreal, man. And I think that
Is
place
that
is
the
an
one?
alphabet.
Is that the one where he goes outside? He's out in the street. He's
Yep,
naked. Then they throw
yep.
some. He throws some shorts on and he's walking around and shit.
It's him and Liz, that young girl, and the show
Is
gets
it?
shut down. I think it's in Alphabet City, and in them days, I guess it was like hood as fuck and like a dope spot. So there's like all these
Yeah.
addicts around.
I think he only played like 3 songs and they got tossed out or
Yeah,
whatever.
and it's him run. It's so they leave the venue. It spills out into the street. There's like
Yes.
people like going nuts and like fucking this whole crowd's like gathering. He's like naked. Like his girl like throws him like a pair of like ladies like
Shorts.
biker shorts, yeah, or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's like
Yeah.
a mob of like 50 people like following him, and it's like something out of a movie, man. It's crazy, but there's like something, yeah, like it's like how can this be real, man? But it's
I
like,
remember when he was laying on the ground and there's a bus right in front of him and it rolled right over him. He took
yeah,
crazy. He did like a somersault in the road and there's a bus coming or something.
yup. No, the whole thing's and that was I mean it must have just been some I mean that was 93. It was just some dude with a big camcorder, I guess, who happened to be on the scene, or maybe the
Probably,
dude
yeah,
they
yeah.
got to, yeah, yeah. But no, that footage is insane. And then yeah, I guess that night I
That's
guess
when he
that
died
night
the
he
night.
passed away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then in the morning, I mean I guess it was normal for him, because frankly, I mean he had a long-standing problem with alcohol. I mean it was normal for him to, kind
No,
of pass
I
out.
wouldn't say that. When I met him, he barely drank. Barely drank.
Interesting. Okay. Okay.
Like
I
we
got that
played
from
shows. We played shows before the shows. He might have a beer or two. That was it. I mean
yeah, so
he
any
started
issues with yeah, came later.
he
Yeah.
started that he stated that after the Jabbers pretty much broke up, that's when all that stuff, the drugs and the drinking, that's when it really
Right.
started going. Yep.
But I guess one of the some weirdo Johnny Puke who was I guess in the periphery of shit like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, okay. I think it was Johnny Puke's apartment, like, or his
That's
buddy's
what I
apartment.
read. Yeah, that's what I
Okay,
read. It
and
was
like
his
Johnny
apartment.
Puke said that like yeah, he's like, the next day he's like Gigi was like he's like we just thought he was passed out, because it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I just leave him alone, let him sleep it off, but then I guess Gigi's girl is like, no, he's not breathing, and then that was that. But yeah, very, very much a waste, man. I mean, I realize people are responsible for their own fate if they're gonna live that kind of hard and reckless. But dying at 36 or 37, it's a fucking waste, man. But
Well, you could tell his lifestyle that, he wasn't gonna live that long anyways.
no, and I
Really.
don't think. I mean, and no matter what anybody says about like, oh, he was just hardcore and seen it. I mean, he wasn't enjoying himself, man. Like, and then like, I mean, how could he be, man? Like anybody who's on that kind of self-destruct course, man, like that even if that's superficially like what they want in their own mind, I mean, they can't be a fun place to be. But
Well, I think he was on a path that he couldn't get out of, couldn't get off. Eventually, he
yeah,
was on. I mean, they had to be more outrageous, every show, whatever. I heard he was going to get into like country type stuff, like he did with the Carnival of Excess, which is really good stuff. But he might have been thinking about changing.
He did a great cover of Carmelita, man. You know, the old Warren
Yeah, yeah,
Zevon story. It's
great.
great. It's like objectively great. Like I play it for people, and they're like, "Oh, who is that?" I'm like, "That's GGL," and they're like, "Fuck you." I'm like, "No, man, I'm serious."
Well, that whole record to me is great.
Yeah, the Troubled Troubadour. Yeah, no, it's dope.
Not that one so much, but the Carnival of Excess.
Oh yeah, right. Thank you. Yeah, no, yeah.
Because it's the production on it's really good. It's like a professional recording, not some shitty. Sounds like it was recorded in.
That sounds like lo-fi fucking kids tape recorder or something. No, no, that's why I tell people too, man. It's like I mean, again, rock and roll is, unfortunately, or not. I mean, like dying young is part of rock and roll in a lot of cases, it's more. It's more like depressing, man. Like the way he went out than anything. Like it's not like fucking cool or like, oh, he didn't make compromises. It's like, no, man, he was a talented dude who everybody liked, and he went to a very fucking dark place, like for the sake of having to like outdo himself, like you said, man. And that's I don't think there's anything cool about that. I think it's very sad. But what did you have a lot of, after he died, did you have a lot of people like hitting you up by like saying like, wanting to like pick your brain for like memories and shit like that, or did people just kind of
no, there was, I actually did I did an interview a couple of years ago. Some guys supposedly writing a book, an autobiography about him, but I don't know if it ever came out. Then there was another one when he first heard that this guy was at the wake. Most of that stuff though is so, it's not even true, half of it.
Yeah, it seems like people don't verify. I mean, in but that's a problem with like rock and roll biographies anyway. It's just like people pass off like hearsay is like, oh, this is true because it fucking sells content. But
well, I heard this guy, the guy from I forget what band he's from, but him and Kurt Cobain supposedly, went to see G.G. Allen in prison. It's like, that's a bunch of bullshit.
There's no fucking way that happened. Yeah.
You're on tour and you're just gonna walk up to the prison, knock on the door and say, we want to see G.G. Allen. This takes probably months to get a visit to a inmate. You just don't walk up and visit an inmate without making plans.
Well, it's also too like he's got to, yeah. I mean, in the penitentiary, like you got to put someone on your visitors list. Like right. That's fucking retarded, man.
This guy's I forget what band he is. He wrote a book, and it's urban legend. There's no way in hell, because if he did, G.G. Allen would probably say something, and Kurt Cobain would say, "Oh, I met G.G. in prison," which he never did.
No, yeah, exactly. And it's like, yeah. Well, it's also too in them days, like I said, man. Like it's not like I was deeply insinuated into the punk scene, but like I did keep up with what was going on with it, and like G.G. Allen was not a dude. The dude had like he had like something of a frightening aura around him. He wasn't just a dude. You'd be like, oh, I'm just gonna go like meet this motherfucker. Like it's, like what people knew about him. There was no internet. Like what you knew about him, you knew from like Maximum Rock and Roll or from like word of mouth, or like you went to some show and like saw him do something crazy. It's not like he was this dude just like man of the fucking people where it's like, oh, I'm gonna go visit G.G. Allen in prison. Like that's right. Just not how fucking shit happened. But
it's a way to sell books, though, if you want to try to sell books.
And nobody fucking it's easy as hell to fact check these days, whatever you're up on, and like nobody does it for whatever reason. They just like take stuff.
Well, I'm sure if you went to that prison and you could get a visitors list and see who visited them.
Oh no, yeah, no, 100%. That shit could be, you get the receipts for that easier than some things, definitely. What people are always asking, and I mean obviously you don't need to like disclose anything sensitive about her like whereabouts, but people are always asking about his daughter. Like like what became of her? Did she turn out okay, or did he have contact with her, or was it basically just she and her mom went her own way after the divorce?
Well, I think he died. She was 7, and I have a friend who's still very good friends with her mother.
Okay,
she's ex-girlfriend, and I met Nico a couple times. I don't know her that well, but I think she's doing all right.
Okay, no, that's good.
I think there was if you watch that All in the Family, that documentary, that Merle put out with his mother, it's actually not bad. I watched it on YouTube, and I guess his mother Gigi's mother like raised that kid early on when she was a baby till she was like 3, and then
Interesting.
the mother took her back, and then the relationship. I don't think Gigi had much of a relationship. She was only 7 years old, anyways. The daughter
Right.
when
No,
they
I got
met.
the impression, yeah, that basically, and I'd imagine too, like even, I mean, even if Gigi could have been like the best father around, but I'm sure the mother would want to insulate her from that kind of side of life and stuff. But that's
I'm sure that
yeah,
was that wasn't a planned thing. I'm sure.
yeah, yeah. No, and it's got to be I mean, it's hard. It's still possible to be basically anonymous, even if you have a famous father. But it's harder these days. I'm sure that she deals with some shit, when the people wanting to be
Oh
around her,
yeah,
like
right,
that
right.
angle, like, oh, you're Gigi's daughter, like, yeah,
Well,
all that shit.
the Jabbers played down at a place in Manchester, and she went. That's the last time I saw her, and of course she was like a little celebrity. This is Gigi's daughter. Of course, everybody wanted to meet her. And believe me, she looks like Gigi. I mean, you can tell. Yeah, that's
You
Gigi's
tell
daughter.
she's his
You can
daughter.
tell.
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
no, that's wild, man.
Yeah,
That's wild.
she was a little celebrity there. Oh, this Gigi's daughter. She was probably in her early 30s then, probably. Look,
That
he's been dead what? How many years now? 31.
yeah, 31
So
years.
she was 7, so she's probably 38, 39 years old right now.
Wild. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I know she had at least 2 kids, so Gigi would be a grandfather actually.
Yeah, that's freaking nuts,
Yeah,
man. Yeah,
imagine like, oh, my grandfather's Gigi Allen.
no,
Pretty funny.
that's freaking awesome. It's what bands are you into nowadays, man? Like, are there any fucking? I mean, punk is basically. I mean, there's
I can't listen to it. I mean, I
yeah,
remember a couple of years ago that Amel and the Sniffers supposed to like
yeah.
I heard about them from Australia, and
Uh-huh.
recently I saw a video like I think it was on TikTok. I see the lead singer, the girl. It's like, oh, that's why they're popular. 'Cause she's good looking. I mean, wearing little
Yeah.
shorts like Blondie. It's like if they didn't have a front woman like that, you'd never hear about that band ever.
No. No, it's really weird
I
too
mean,
how like back catalog, yeah.
they're not a bad band, but they're just run of the mill.
There's
But they've
nothing
got this lead singer,
Yeah,
you
no,
know.
it's all fucking it's all like image and like
Well,
optics and shit. And it's yes,
well,
and like
even the
no, go ahead.
Plasmatics to me, it's like, yeah, they're all right, but because they had Wendy O. Williams, that's why they
Yeah.
became famous.
Well, yeah, and she was popping up at Hustler and stuff too, and like
Right. Well,
yeah,
she was a
yeah, yeah.
stripper and all this stuff. It's like that's why that band got popular. It wasn't because of their music.
No, yeah,
Yeah, same
100%.
thing with that Animal and the Sniffers. I think, oh, they're popular because they got that hot chick lead singer.
I always yeah, no, I mean everybody listens to like I mean that's one of the reasons why like old like back catalog is like what people listen to these days. I mean I'm the same way, man. I listen to fucking Thunders and Elvis and shit, man, like more than I do anything. And yeah, as well
Yeah,
as some
I
stuff,
just
like
listen.
MC5, Agnostic Front and shit. But it's not like I'm just not if you dig deep, I mean, there's like fresh shit that's like worth like listening to, but it's like few and far between. And there's also like there's not like a scene or anything too either. It's like it's weird, man. It's like everybody just like does their own thing, kind of like in isolation. I mean, which
Right, and then is another problem is there's so much music that's released today. It's like you can never, like the old days, you could look. People would release 45s and stuff. You go to a
yeah,
record store and find that. Now it's just there's so much of it online. How are you gonna find any bands? You're just gonna have to stumble across them.
yeah, no, and it's like yeah, I basically like rely on like younger dudes to like turn me on to shit that's like fresh. I go, hey, like listen to this, I mean, I realize part of that's like getting old, but part of it's yeah, man. There's such a fucking like glut of like content, and material. Like you couldn't like if I decided like oh I'm gonna keep up with like fresh music, like I wouldn't be able
Right.
to do it. Yeah,
But when
yeah,
you get older, the fresh music is just stuff that you heard 20 years earlier.
no,
Like I
yeah,
heard
yeah,
when Green Day first came out, it's like, oh, this is the Ramones.
yeah, yeah.
I
It's like
mean,
it's like the Ramones of
basically,
late, like fucking
right.
without fucking energy and shit. Yeah, no, it's and people are like oh this is fucking some fucking fresh shit. Yeah,
It's really
no,
not.
this
It cycles every 20 years, pretty much. You know,
no,
music
legit,
cycles.
legit, man. Yeah, yeah. This was incredibly dope, man. I appreciate you making time to talk to us. Like anything, where can people tell people where they can find you, man? Like where can people find you on YouTube, and if you got any other platforms, like, and how can they throw some cash your way if they want to help you monetize? Like where you at? Like tell my sub
Oh,
where they can find you.
well, I'm on YouTube. On the channel is drastically reduced. That's my band. It's not a real band. It's just me playing music, and that's on streams everywhere. And it's on Bandcamp, but it's good stuff. It's punk. I play surf, instrumentals, not just punk rock, but I play all kinds of
That's
stuff.
awesome.
But,
But
the
I'll
problem is
include
the problem is there's so much music out there. No one, I have some listeners, but not enough.
I'll
Time,
plug I'll plug your I'll include a link to your YouTube like in like when I upload this recording, man. And but yeah, I highly recommend what Steve's up on, man. Like he's got some like he's like the stories you've been dropping are like fascinating, man, too. Like and it's such a very cool channel, man. And like I said, I was really happy to come across it because it was like by splendid accident. But no, that's
I got more stories, Gigi stories. I only have so many because I was only in the band for a couple of years, but I got some good. I haven't talked about the wake yet. And
yeah,
the
yeah.
shows
No, some
down and we played
more
in New York.
yeah,
So
no,
I
some
got a
more,
few more.
man.
I'm going to
Yeah.
tell.
Yeah. No, I
And
can
there,
vouch for
some of them I think are very funny.
no, they're freaking hilarious, man. Like I can vouch for that, man. Like I mean, like I said, man, that's why I reached out because your YouTube channel is freaking great. But I'll let you go, man. We should do this again if you're down sometime, man. Like I'm trying to
Sure.
I mean I cover a lot of kind of like cultural weirdness like on my pod and platform, but I'm trying to dig deeper into kind of punk heritage and shit. So if you're down, man, we should do this again in a few weeks if that sounds agreeable.
Yeah, I have some great stories of some of these bands I saw. Like, I've seen all those bands in their heyday: Dead Kennedys, Black Flag, DOA, Circle Jerks. I've
Did you
seen
ever
so
see
many.
Thunders?
I'll tell you what,
Did you ever see Johnny Thunders?
I saw one night I was down at the Rat in Boston just for the hell of
Uh-huh.
it, and the original Heartbreakers were playing minus Johnny Thunders, but I saw the three original
That's wild,
Heartbreakers.
man.
I was 3 feet from this. Not even. I was right there, right in front of the
Uh-huh.
stage. It was unbelievable. Walter Lore, believe me, he kept that band together because Johnny was so unreliable. He sounded
No, that's wild,
great,
man.
but I never saw. I had chances to see Thunders, but I heard, back then he was just doing shows to get drug money. It's like, do I really want to go down there and have my impression of him ruined? This is fucking
Well, also,
heroin. It's like,
I'm a huge Thunders fan, so I mean, I've watched a
oh, me
lot of
too.
yeah, no, yeah, I figured as much, and
Huge.
like it's really that era, man. Really post Dolls, like there's live footage where he's like nails it, and he's like on
Oh
fire,
yeah,
and then there's some where he's just like terrible, and you can tell he's like
right.
yeah, I mean it's like nothing in between. It's like either he was on or he was like a fucking mess. I mean that's the nature of addiction, but no, Thunder's is fucking he was incredible, man. We
Thunders
should
is one of my. He's
go
one
ahead.
of
I'm
my
sorry.
greatest. He's one of my greatest influences. Thunders. I love the way he
Yeah,
plays the guitar. And in
no, I
fact,
figured as much.
I have a song called LMAF. LAMF. I mean, it's a really good song. It's about him.
Yeah, I got a hit here.
Oh yeah, yeah. I got a
Yeah.
song. That
No,
title.
yeah, yeah, we should definitely do like a dedicated Thunders episode, man, like moving forward. Like my other buddy Ace, he's like a younger dude, but he's like got encyclopedic knowledge of that kind of shit. So yeah, that would be
Really.
yeah, no, you guys would get along too, man. But yeah, I'll
In
let you
fact,
go.
I have a picture of Gigi when he met Thunders. I found it. I think on the
No
internet. There's a
way.
picture. There's a picture of Gigi. Thunders is sitting down at a table, and Gigi's like on top, like standing up, like I think shaking his hand or something, or talking to him. It's pretty cool.
That's freaking great, man.
You can
The
find it. You can find it. I found it somewhere. It's like He must have met
No,
him
I'll
in New
look
York
for
or
it.
something.
I figured they must have crossed paths at some point, even if it was just like, you know, because Gigi was like in the front row or something at like a doll show. But that's freaking awesome.
Well, we used to see David Johansen he used to play in Manchester at this club every month. I mean, like the Casbah Club, and Johansen was. I mean, of course, I like Johansen, but Thunder's never played there. Unfortunately, I would have loved to see him play.
Yeah, yeah. No, man, yeah. No, oh yeah.
He
It's
is a legend.
No, yeah. No, he's second only to Elvis, man, in my opinion.
Really,
Yeah. I'm a big
the
Elvis
great
guy. But yeah.
the great thing about Thunder is too is he has his own sound, which is when you're a guitar player, you want to have your own sound, and for some reason he had it because obviously he was self-taught the way he plays.
Yeah.
He plays these
No,
shitty leads, but they sound so good.
yeah, no, nobody sounded like him, man. I mean, people tried, obviously, like when he blew up, but he was on his own freaking tip, man, like 100%.
Oh, he had his own sound for sure.
No, yeah, we'll definitely record some Thunders content, man. Yeah, I'll hit you up, my friend, like when I upload this, and yeah, I appreciate you very much, Steve, and yeah, I'll be in touch in the next few days.
All right.
All right, thank you, buddy.
Great. All right, take care.